What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of NewOrleans.Basketball and NewOrleans.Network podcast. As always, I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrick Raphael Rattler. What's poppin' with you, bro?
What up, bro? Everything's all good on this side. Trying to again stay cool out of there, man. It is hot in New Orleans, man. It is, and all those people came down for Essence Fest and brought all their body heat because it is ridiculous. And it like rains like every 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes is raining. Then like the next 5 minutes, next hour is burning hot, sun burning down the gates of hell, and then 10 minutes later it's raining again. I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of the bipolar weather in New Orleans. It is bad for my sinuses. It's bad for my travels to work and things. So, but other than that, man, I'm good, man. Enjoying this basketball team. USA took a little had a little game yesterday. That was pretty cool to see all of those guys together, man. It just when you realize how talented the NBA is really when they go to the Olympics and you're like, wait, who's the sixth man for that team? Mm-hmm. Who's the seventh man for that team? Oh, wait, it's Anthony Edwards for the Team USA and things. So I think they got some things going on, man. I really hate to hear the Kawhi situation. I hate to see that. I hate to hear about that and things. But I think there's a lot of talent, and they took it to Canada without even playing well. So I'm really excited to see that team play, man. I'm really excited to see all the different storylines in there. So I was locked into the game last night. It was great. It was basketball all day yesterday. Like WNBA started at like 10 in the morning and Team USA ended, which is crazy. But they do the camp day for the kids and all that. What respect, I love it, but 10 a.m. tip-offs are wild business. But other than that, man, getting Summer League going, and I'm ready to talk about the Pels in Summer League. So how's everything on your side?
Everything is blessed. Yes, we do get Pelicans basketball again tomorrow. A different sample size, but a sample size nonetheless. So you'd be grateful for what you get. But I'm excited to jump into it. Before we do that, make sure you guys are following us on Twitter, on X, on IG, on TikTok. That's NewOrleans.Basketball, no E. Make sure you are locked in. You are locked the episode below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are not already. So, no, the Pelicans do not have a starting center. No, Brandon Ingram has not gotten an extension or been traded. We are in the same spot. But, like I said, the Pelicans start Summer League tomorrow, and you will get your first glimpse at the player who I think everybody is waiting to see. Like the Pelicans posted on Twitter, on X, the Summer League roster. They're one of the last teams to post their Summer League roster. And, of course, the highlight player was Jordan Hawkins. You and I have been talking about it. Last year's use of Jordan Hawkins, we'll put it in the past. But this is like the perfect environment for Jordan Hawkins. Like even last year at Summer League, fresh off of, winning a national championship, this man came out and shot the ball. Now, he didn't shoot it well, but he shot the ball with reckless abandon. This year, it is his team. There's no Dyson Daniels. It is his show to run. His green light to turn off. Like, literally, it is Jordan Hawkins' primetime day, which begs the question, right? With moves yet to be made with the roster and, bringing in another guard in DeJounte Murray, is Jordan Hawkins ready to take that next step? Because, again, I was in the building for the Dallas game where everybody sat out and you were like, oh, well, the Pels are about to get washed in Dallas. And this man, Jordan Hawkins, lit the AAC on fire. And then after that, you were like, okay, here is the coming out party for Jordan Hawkins. And shortly after that, you no longer saw very much Jordan Hawkins. So you're looking for that next step for him. Obviously, if you just look at him visually, has to put on more weight because, again, Willie Green is a coach who prides himself on the defensive end, and it's not that Jordan Hawkins can't move his feet or is not a good perimeter defender. It's that he lacks the size, right? And so generally what you want to see in that next year, hey, did you put on some weight, some muscle to add to that frame? To go along with that on the offensive end, a lot of what he was doing last year and a lot of what he was doing at UConn was a lot of catch and shoot, a lot of free shots and free release and things like that. You want to see him take that next step. Can you create off the dribble a little bit? Can you dribble into a midi? Can you get to the rim a little bit more and take that next step offensively? So it's more than just, hey, if Jordan Hawkins pass to him, catch it, because if not, you're gonna have to pass it right back. What are you looking for out of Jordan Hawkins in this? I'm assuming he's going to play every single game and going to play a whole lot of minutes because the Pelicans only have like 11, 12 people on the roster. So it's going to have to be a lot of him. What are you looking for Jordan Hawkins as he looks into his sophomore season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the points that you made, I think those are going to be the important points for Jordan Hawkins. Getting stronger is a great place to start because, you know, as great of an offensive player he is and has the capabilities to be, you know, if you're getting targeted on defense and it's because he's, you know, again, he's slight of frame, you could tell that he has the chops to be a decent defender. And he also has like the tenacity to be a defender. He's always fighting hard. He's fighting through screens and trying his best to, you know, get some of those bigger guys, give him a fight back when they post him up. You know, but it is, he does go through those situations and you know, the NBA is dead hell bent right now on finding that weak defender and attacking that person over and over again. And so in order to get, I think, into, you know, at least Willie's good graces, because again, I think he's gonna play regardless, just because, like, look at the roster, like he has to eventually get on the floor. But to get into his good graces, I think you want to see a little bit of a growth in strength, and I think that leads to that growth in defense. Now, what I do want to see from Jordan Hawkins, I think, is unfair to ask him right now because I don't know what the philosophy of the offense is going to be this season. We've watched time and time again, you know, teams have simple play. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It's simple plays run for shooters, right? Miami has a pin down and a dribble handoff with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Nothing that you have to like create and mismatch these different and set up the offense for him, but to have that kind of thing to get into, right? And there's a lot of guys on the team that Jordan Hawkins can play off. He could do pick and rolls with Zion, obviously, meaning all dribble handoffs with Zion. He could do dribble handoffs with Brandon Ingram. You know, he could do dribble handoffs with Trey Murphy, right? And get the shooters involved. He could do a lot of different things, but those things obviously you're not going to get that kind of execution in Summer League, but those are the things that like he's going to be asked to do on you would want him to be asked to do, but I don't know if the offense is going to be, are they going to set up guys like that? Because we watched all last season, they didn't set up Trey Murphy. And if they didn't set up Trey Murphy, I don't really think that they even thinking about setting up Jordan Hawkins, but we saw in games where he had the green light, where he showed that he was able to do, not even just that Dallas game. He went toe-to-toe with Jokic and Murray in Denver and put up a ton of points in that game. And so he has big game ability and big game play. But I think some of the things that I would want to see him do with the Pelicans when the regular season comes, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that from the Summer League. And I also don't know if that's going to be something that the offense evolves into, if Willie evolves into, James Borrego evolves into, it gets more input on getting him open for shots. But for sure, I definitely want to see him get better in the strength and defensive wise. I think he does have a bit of an off-ball game. I mean, a ball, put the ball on the ground game. I want to see him attack closeouts, right? There's a lot of times where he's so confident in his shot that like he'll shoot it. And a lot of times, at least the 4-point plays, we saw Jordan Hawkins get a couple of those or at least 3-point shots with 3 free throws. But I'd like to see him, listen, if you're playing with Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins on the floor, those are going to be 5-alarm fires for the other opposing team. And they're going to be looking to find those guys on the 3-point line. So when they're closing out because of that 5-alarm fire, put the ball on the ground and get to the rim, get, like you said, dribble into the mid-range. And so just diversify that shot profile for Jordan Hawkins and get bigger in the weight room, which I think will be better for him on the defensive side of the ball. And so those are the 2 things I'm looking for. But I really want to see the offense evolve into incorporating these guys and not just kind of having them out on the rim, out on the perimeters, waiting for shots. That's fine. That's great. But like some of the better teams put their shooters in positions to make those shots and be effective for them.
Right. I mean, you make a great point in that, Trey Murphy's game is different from Jordan Hawkins' game because Trey is more traditional catch and shoot players, whereas Jordan Hawkins is a movement shooter. And again, we've been talking about that since JJ Redick left the Pelicans. Shout out to the head coach of the Lakers. You just were waiting to see what that looked like with Zion. You were waiting to see what that looked like with BI. And it always felt like Jordan Hawkins was just put in a position where you're a catch and shoot player and not put in the position that made him the pick that you wanted out of UConn next to your supplemental role. So you make a good point from that standpoint. And that's an offense into itself. If you got a guy running around the court all the time, you got to worry about chasing him all around. Well, then you can't send 4 and 5 guys to stop Zion simultaneously as well. And so you make a great point from that standpoint. Trey talked about it at the end of the season. He couldn't wait to get with Jordan Hawkins, and those two worked together because Trey went through a lot of the same struggles coming out the gates and earning Whitley's trust on the defensive end and putting weight on his body so he didn't get dominated by stronger players and things like that. My thing with Jordan Hawkins this summer league, again, to your point, they're not running plays in the summer league. These guys are trying to get it up, trying to make a roster, trying to make a name for themselves. Like, there's not a whole lot of organization to what happens in summer league. But what I want to see out of Jordan Hawkins is, like, how is your handle, right? We talk about DeJounte Murray coming in, and we talk about, Dyson Daniels leaving out and things like that. But I think what will be important for Jordan Hawkins is, can you do something other than catch and shoot, right? Like, obviously getting to the middle, we talk about that, getting to the rim. But we also talk about the Pelicans drafted Jordan Hawkins to be C.J. McCollum's replacement. C.J. McCollum has, due to situation, been morphed into a catch-and-shoot player and been at his best for the Pelicans in a catch-and-shoot player. But when you need a bucket, when someone's not available, when you need someone to be able to get their own, he's always been the guy to break into his bag and be able to do that. Jordan Hawkins isn't there yet. And so if you're ready to move on from CJ this year, next year, whatever that may be, there's another step in his game that he needs to grow to be a true six-man, be a true microwave player that comes in and can score in more facets than one. And so this is the perfect environment to try things out and see how you improved your game in other ways. So Jordan Hawkins obviously is a big window, and that's a big eye of what everyone is looking for as far as the Pelicans Summer League. But right after him, it's Yves Missi, right? And it's not – I don't know if it's necessarily fair. Again, 21st pick of the Pelicans this year, 19 years old, only been playing basketball for like a couple of years, only been in the United States for like a couple of years. But as of right now, he is like center number 2, 1 – I don't know, right? And so in this scenario, again, this is where you want to see from him. You want to see the rim running ability that he just displayed at Baylor. You want to see the shot blocking that you've seen all in the Summer League up to this point. You want to see that energy, that relentless motor that, again, the Pelicans have been looking for out of a center that to come in and bring that presence, similarly to a Derek Lively, similarly to a Jalen Duren, guys that don't know no better. Like, I'm just athletic. I'm going to go get every block. I'm going to go get every dunk. That's what you want to see. And again, Summer League is the perfect environment for things like that. But what else are you looking for the player? Again, I don't know if it's one of those things where the Pelicans are just about to insert Yves Missi into the rotation and be like, yo, you got it. I think it's going to be one of those things where he's going to have to, similarly to a Herb Jones, similarly to a Trey Murphy to some degree, similarly to a Jose Alvarado, come out in Summer League and be like, oh, well, this guy has to play sooner rather than later. So what are some of the things you're looking for from Yves Missi in his debut in a Pelicans uniform?
Yeah, everything that was written about him and everything that you've read, and even if you look at the footage, screams top whatever % athlete. And you want to see that, right? You want that to pop off the screen, where he just looks athletic. He looks like a guy that's flying all over the place, with what that, like you said, that bull in the China mentality, in the paint on offense and on defense. But I do want to see some things on offense, because I think a lot of the things that you read and saw about him was focused on his defense and focused on his rim protection and his switchability and things like that. And they're gonna test that. They're gonna test the switchability. They're gonna call him out, and I want to see him slide his feet and do those things. But there was some offensive highlights that you saw, and doing your research on him and looking at his footage that showed that he might have a little untapped offensive potential. No, I don't mean, Chet Holmgren. I don't mean he's shooting threes. He's not doing anything like that. But I saw a couple of times where he would take a jab step, 1-2 dribble, and he's at the rim dunking on people. And I don't expect him to get into that a lot, right? But I saw a couple of those plays, on his film that showed me that if you leave him alone and you're not worrying about him, he can take, and you just have your center in front of him, like he's athletic enough to take you off, 1-2 dribbles and at the rim and can finish. And so I want to see some of that. Like you said, this is the summer league for Jordan Hawkins to come out and have that ultimate green light and prove and show that he's a different type of player. Yves Missi has the same kind of runway because, like you said, there's no, like, Daniel Tice is there, but like there's no person no starting center on the team, and they drafted him as a rim protector because there is zero on the roster. And so you have to believe, as of right now, that he's going to have to contribute at some point in time. And so if you're going to do that, like if you're going to do that, take this opportunity in the summer league to go out and show some of the things that, the basketball junkies may have seen in your film, but everybody's talking about your rim protection. Obviously, we want to see all of that, but I would love to see 1 or 2 plays where if he gets ISO'd with a center at the free throw line down, show me something. Put the ball on the ground. Show some of those moves, those offensive moves that are deep in your highlight tape. Days. But I think the main thing, and of course what everybody, and rightfully so wants to see, is the rim protection. I want to see him deterring shots, establish the presence of a rim protecting or a big, or doing your job, establish it in summer league so that going in, obviously we talk about Willie's, his affinity for defensive players. And even if you're young, he will play you if you play defense. But establish that and let the Pelicans, let Willie Green know that you drafted a rim protector. I am a rim protector. So go out there, do what you do. He's been doing this, like you say, only for a couple of years, but he's been being athletic and rim protecting and being a deterrent for those entire 3 years. Like that is something he is very comfortable doing. Be the best at it and go out there and show a little something that you got in the offensive bag that is on the tape. If you go back and watch.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Bryson Graham highlighted about him in the introductory press conference for Yves Missi is that he has really good spatial awareness. So he's not like in the way. Like, again, when you're playing with guys like Zion and B.I. and DeJounte Murray who like to get to the rim, you can't clog the lane so that your man is also in the rim. You need to be good at finding the dunker spot. You need to be good at taking a step back to make your defender make a choice one way or the other. I'm curious to see how good he is at making himself available for the outlet pass, for the dunker spot pass, and things like that. The other thing that I'm really paying attention to, outside of the things you already know he's good at, is how well he can rebound, right? Like, there was a knock on him coming out of college. Maybe he wasn't in the greatest condition. He didn't play like a superb amount of minutes or anything like that, but his rebounding numbers weren't super high. Well, again, I keep coming back to this. Neither was Derek Lively. Like, in his short stint at Duke, he averaged around the same amount of rebounds, but then he got to the NBA and was like, oh yeah, I'm athletic as hell and I can get to the ball before any of you.
And there's a lot more space. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I want to see some of that from Yves Missi where you just go get everything. And again, we've talked about this, and I tweeted out this a month or so ago. I don't think the comparison with Yves Missi and Jackson Hayes is a fair one. Like, Jackson, not the most like basketball intelligent person. Obviously, a lot of athletic ability and natural God-given talent, but just a lot of the basketball IQ wasn't there. I don't see that same thing in Yves Missi. I think he's able to kind of read the floor and read how the balls come in the rim. It's just he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities and he hasn't had a whole lot of experience doing it. And so, again, an environment like Summer League where people are just playing with their hair on fire, trying to make a name for themselves, I want to see him attack the boards. One of the things we saw in Trey Murphy's, again, no one knew too much about Trey Murphy until Summer League when he was guarding Evan Mobley. I'm like, oh, well, Trey's going to be a rebounder at some point. oh, well, Trey's going to be good at defense at some point. I want to get a lot of those same things from Yves Missi over the next couple of games and weeks. The other thing we've talked about, again, we beat the no starting center yet dead horse to its grave. That was a big one. A key ingredient of the offseason was, what are you going to do in the lead guard position? You went and made a huge trade and acquired DeJounte Murray. The last kind of bucket was, you knew you weren't going to have enough money to pay Naji Marshall. But you need to replace that production because, again, outside of Zion, outside of B.I., outside of CJ, Naji was probably your best rim penetrator on the team. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Obviously, the Pelicans won 0 playoff games, so maybe that was not. But you need someone else who can create for themselves coming off the bench. And I'm looking at a guy like Antonio Reeves. Look, he is an older guy. Again, look at the track record of this Pelicans team over the last couple of years. Naji, Jose, Herb, they've had success with some guys who've been in college for a little bit of time and be able to develop their skills so when they get to the NBA, they can contribute right away. I'm looking at a player like Antonio Reeves. Everybody looks at Rob Dillingham and what he was able to do at Kentucky and how he went on to get that huge trade with the Timberwolves to play next to Ant. Antonio Reeves was the leading scorer for that team. And he scored in a lot of different ways. He's a true 3-level scorer. He averaged 20 points, which is not an easy thing to do in college basketball where no one can shoot. It's not very organized, very similar to Summer League in a lot of ways. But he was one of those guys who, again, he was in college for a long time, but he added a lot of things to his repertoire in terms of how to get to the basket, how to catch and shoot, how to get off your shot in many different ways. And I think, again, people aren't putting a whole lot of emphasis into a second-round pick unless your name is Bronny James, and rightfully so. But Antonio Reeves, I think that this is an under-the-radar player that might sneak into maybe not a full-time rotation, but a spot player in a rotation that could potentially be a scorer off the bench. What are you looking for in Antonio Reeves in the upcoming Summer League game?
I cannot wait to see Antonio Reeves and Jordan Hawkins share the floor together. That is going to be top-tier basket hoop. Is a hooper's dream. I am excited about Antonio Reeves. I really am because, again, older guy. So, this is someone who theoretically has gone through some basketball things, right, in college and has matured. And that means the game has matured. And so when you get a guy who's the leading scorer for a program like Kentucky in the second round with the ability to score from all areas, I think that is something that to be spoken for. That's, you don't just find leading scorers of Kentucky laying around all over the place. And so that he already has a pedigree
on the USA team.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. But this is not the USA team, so usually find them in the draft, and so I'm excited about him because I want to see that mature ability. You're going to be older than a lot of guys on the floor, so run the offense. People was asking me. I tweeted out, I can't wait to see that Jordan Hawkins, Antonio Reeves backcourt, and I was like, and everybody was like, well, who's going to be the point guard? I'm like, let him run it, right? He's not a traditional point guard, but he's a scoring guard with a feel for the game. And so I think he can play off that. And I'd like to see him show some ability to run a backup point guard because, listen, everyone in the building loves Jose Alvarado. Everyone in the building loves him. He was offensively challenged against OKC. He just could not contribute, and give you what you needed from a guard off the bench. And so I want to see him come in and have some of the playmaking chops that Jose has, shows that you have at least some of it. Because if you're the better offensive player at that point, now obviously you might not be as good as Jose defensively. Jose stands out, from a lot of guards in that way. But we saw in that OKC series, it didn't matter how great Jose was because he got picked on, and attacked and could not give you anything offensively. So can Antonio Reeves, Jose was a summer league guy who undrafted, came out of nowhere and was playing in the playoffs for the Pelicans. So it's not a crazy assumption to have a guy come in there, and make a rise with the Pelicans the way that Jose did. And so I'd like to see him come in with some of those playmaking chops so that he can get a look as somebody who can come off the bench and organize the situation, organize the team, as well as score, because the scoring, I think, is going to come. He shot 43% at the top of the key three-pointers. I mean, that screams pull up threes. That screams transition. Zion is going 1,000 miles an hour. Turn around, hit. You can hit this guy for a top of the key three. Like a lot of different ways that he can contribute to the game, and as well, like you said, take the ball off the off the dribble and get to the rim. The defensive side is where I want to see some effort and some improvement from Antonio Reeves. He's another small guy, but he's a guy, and mean small as in frame wise. But I think that he a lot of the defensive things that I saw on his film was him again being attacked defensively because he's smaller and thin frame. But what I think that he can do because he's 6'6" and kind of has a lot of his arms are long and like they're lanky. So like get in the passing lanes, like let that be your defense. Get some steals. Like he averaged, I think 0.7. So there was some games that he had some steals in those games. That's close to a steal a game. Get in the passing lanes, like cause some turnovers. If you're not going to be the standard offensive player up one-on-one, stopper, then get in the passing lanes. De'Aaron Fox is a great example of that, who, another slim guy and things, but can get out there and make plays in the passing lanes and things. So I like to see him do some things on the defensive end, cause some havoc, cause some turnovers. But I do want to see that 3-level scoring, and I absolutely want to see some playmaking chops from him. Although that's not his thing, I think that is something that he could get into a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Willie Green has shown you over his tenure as the head coach of the Pelicans, if you can't defend, you're not going to play. If all you do is shoot, you're not going to play. And so you're going to have to show different facets of the game. Coach Calipari, shout out to the Hogs. When Antonio Reeves was drafted and the Pelicans traded back into the second round to go get him because the Pelicans did not have a second round pick, the first thing he said was that's a player that developed into a two-way player. And again, I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to go there, but his defense did improve. And to your point, can you be good enough? That's what I've been screaming all season long. The Pelicans need to transition from playing defenders who can kind of shoot to shooters who can kind of defend. Because if you can do that, I think that's going to make up for a lot of things in a lot of ways. The last person I want to talk to, because again, there's a lot of players from the squadron. There's a lot of players on the Pelicans Summer League team who probably not going to make the roster. But there's a player in particular that, again, I see it in the comments. Kedge was talking about it. We talked about it enough. There is a deficit at big man on this team. Well, the Pelicans, once upon a time, drafted Karlo Matkovic to come in and to be that floor spacing big man. Now, he has got no opportunities to do that in a Pelicans uniform. He played some games overseas, and then he played some games in the G League last year as well. Had a great showing, had great outing, but again, not good enough apparently to see in the NBA minutes. Again, you're coming off of a year being under the Pelicans umbrella, a year being a pro. This is the environment where there's a deficit at big. You're a big. If you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. This is your opportunity to go supplant yourself. Like, again, Jemison, who is on the, I think the Memphis G League Summer League team this year, they pulled him in last year, and he kind of got more minutes and more playing time than Karlo, right? And so if there's going to be an opportunity for Karlo to say, I earned a roster spot or give me an opportunity, it's going to have to come now. It's going to have to come in training camp. What are you looking from a Karlo who, again, has shown the ability to have some of that athleticism, shown some of the ability to have some of that rim running and rim protection, and also shown the ability to stretch the floor a little bit at 6'10 to 6'11"? What are you looking for out of his summer league performance to see if he can grab one of those Pelicans roster spots?
One thing, just differentiate yourself. Stand out. I don't know what it will be for Karlo, whether it's him stepping away from the rim and shooting the three. If it's him rebounding at a high rate, if Yves Missi is not, if he's still working on the rebounding, like I want him to be the rebounder. Then he has to differentiate himself some way. Like you said, he's had a year under with the squadron. He's been a professional. The Pelicans are screaming for big men to play. No, Karlo is not going to be the starter, but you got drafted and to come in and contribute. as a big man. Differentiate yourself and make the roster. Like make them make a decision. Because Karlo there's a lot of things that he does well, but then there's like a lot of things when you watch, even when you watch a squadron games, like some of the games that Jordan Hawkins play, you're like, just like do something. Like do something. And so you want to see him. I see people talking about it with strength. You want to see him have gotten bigger and gotten more aggressive as far as going for rebounding and things like that. Be a rim protector, like just stand out some kind of way, because like you said, the time is ticking. And if this doesn't motivate you, if this doesn't give you that drive to say, okay, there's a deficit at big men, this is my opportunity. If not now, then like when? It's not going to happen. And so just differentiate yourself. Whatever it is that he brings to the table, he feels like the most comfortable and the best at contributing, do it. If it's rebounding, if it's the 3-point shot, let him fly, space the floor. If it's rim running, if it's getting from one side of the floor faster, beating everybody down the floor, do that. But do something to make the Pelicans say, this wasn't a waste of a draft pick. Because again, they've had times where JRE has come on the floor and gotten minutes in games, and they don't even call up Karlo. They don't call him. They don't nothing. So obviously you're not showing them enough. Show them enough. This is Summer League. You have about as good of an opportunity as anybody on the floor. When you talk about position availability, go out there and do something to differentiate yourself and get on the Pelicans radar. Because him playing in a squadron with so many big men not available for the Pelicans last season, just didn't feel too good of a look for Karlo.
Right. And again, he played well in the G League. Like he outplayed EJ Liddell in most of the games, and EJ Liddell is no longer on this roster. So again, to your point, if there's no better time than now, because if you can't do it now, there's a good chance he will not be on the Pelicans roster in the long term. So again, Pelicans start Summer League tomorrow. At least you get at minimum 4 games, I think, or 5 games, and then you'll see what happens after that. But what else you got for the people? While we enter Summer League, Vegas is hot. Everyone's going to be down there. The U.S. team has traveled overseas. Hopefully you get to see some of the Pelicans trade. DeJounte Murray is already in Vegas. You're probably going to see Zion. What you got left for the people as we wrap this up?
Speaking of DeJounte, his press conference happened, and I think we got some really good things out of that. I think him looking Zion in the face, telling him that he's going to push him. And I think Zion being at the press conference was a really big thing. He did not have to be there, but he was there. And I think for Zion to have been there shows you a level of respect and know what DeJounte is bringing to the table. And I think the fact that DeJounte looked Zion in the eyes and was like, I'm going to push you, and Zion being receptive to that, I think that's going to go well. Said some interesting things. He heard the Jose situation. Like, I don't know what that was about. And talked about him and Brandon Ingram apparently being really, really tight and close. So just some good things to come out of that DeJounte presser. I want to see how the Brandon Ingram situation is hanging over. So I don't know what the starting lineup, but I want to see this team on the floor together, because I do think there's some things that DeJounte talked about that he's going to bring to the table, and that the Pelicans sorely need. So hopefully you'll see some of those guys at Summer League on the camera and they're supporting the team. But as this Summer League goes on, we'll be here to cover it. And hopefully somebody, some of these guys that we talked about today stand out and make a name for themselves and do some of the things that we need them to do to show, put on tape for the Pelicans moving forward. So as always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO Basketball, No E. Most importantly, subscribe to the page below, and we'll see you guys next time.